Hey guys, Steve here from the turtlefollower.com with the weekend update for Saturday, September 13th, 2014. I just want to take a moment and welcome all the new followers that we've had the last few weeks. So if this is the first time you're watching the weekend update, basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through our existing positions that we have in the model portfolio. There's 13 positions. We're actually going to be selling out of 3 for Monday morning. I'll go through those 3 in a little bit. We're also going to then establish a weekly watch list for the upcoming week, and that is essentially the watch list that we use to take trades on if any trigger this week. The fact is, the last few weeks we have not taken any trades just because we've been maxed out in our portfolio allocation with the margin amount that we were given. So we were using about 80% margin. Now by selling these 3 positions, we'll probably be down to somewhere around 40% margin, which is really the area I would like to keep it in. So I'm not too sure if we're going to be taking more positions, but we'll see what happens with the trades and everything like that. But we are going to establish that watch list as we do every weekend for the trading week, for anyone who is not following along specifically with the positions. At least it gives you a smaller watch list that you can take trades on your own and base trades on your own style and strategy. So let's first look at the S&P 500. So the past few weekends we've talked about how the market is really just consolidating. Every breakdown has been sold. Every breakout, let's reverse that. Every breakdown has been bought, and every breakout has been sold into. So you had a lot of tails, and what we were looking at was this trend line moving through these 2 lows, and we were also looking at this as a potential consolidation. All right, we had this consolidation back here, and we were also looking at this as a potential consolidation right in here. Now what's happened with Friday's action is we finally got the breakdown and close below consolidation, and now we're coming back to test this 50-day moving average. The one thing I am looking at now is potentially this being more of a little flag pattern. Redraw this channel, because you can see we're very concentrated in this area here. Okay, so we're consolidating, maybe moving down very systematically to that 50-day moving average, and then we are going to maybe potentially break that trend line to the upside and continue with another move higher. On the weekly chart, you can see that the trend has really been established for the past year and a half, and we are essentially sitting right at resistance. Okay, right at 2000 was resistance, 2010 was the high. Now we're coming back to that trend line. So let's see what happens when we get back to that weekly trend line. If this continues, if we break out higher, it all depends on obviously the price action that we see. Right now we're just predicting what may happen, but we always base our trades off of price action and use the market more as a guide than a trigger point. So really with the market, I mean, it's just kind of doing its own thing. I think it's working off some of this overbought conditions from this move that we had from almost 1900 to 2000, and now we're pulling back a little bit for a potential break higher out of this little flag channel, whatever you want to call it, and another break higher. So let's go through the 3 positions that we are going to be exiting for Monday morning. The first one is going to be APD. We talked about this one on Thursday night, and we basically said that it was a minimal break that we had. Sure enough, we continued to the downside again on Friday. So we're a little bit further away from the stop than I feel comfortable. You could see we're breaking the weekly chart. All right, so I think at this point we're going to play it safe. We could play the what ifs later. And we're going to actually exit this position on Monday morning. We entered all the way up here at 136. We are going to be exiting somewhere around here, 128. So it's probably going to be somewhere around a 0.8 R loss. EQR down 3.17%. I don't know what happened with this stock. I don't know if there was news. I was looking. I didn't see anything specific, but this stock nosedived from in the last 4 days. I mean, it gave up from 67 to 62. Gave up almost 5 points in 3 trading days. I thought we were going to hold this 64 level with this small bounce, maybe potentially push higher. Sure enough, that did not happen, and we ended up hitting our stop, which was right here at 64. And this is one of the the downsides of using closing stops is obviously if you had in a typical stop where you had your alert set, you would have potentially exited at say 63.75. With our method, we actually will be exiting Monday morning at the open. So as long as we don't get any negative news over the weekend, we should be exiting somewhere around 62.68. And the last one we're going to be exiting is Tesoro, down 0.42%. This was another minimal break, but again, I felt like it was time to take an exit, only for the reason that we broke a couple key areas. We also broke this previous low we were using. This one could potentially turn around and rally back in our face, but I think we pretty much established that 66 is an important resistance level. It bounced off of that level back here in May 2013, and it also hit that same level recently and is pulling back. So I think for Tesoro, we're going to exit the trade. We're probably going to be able to lock in a small gain or a small loss depending on how we get filled, but it's essentially a wash trade. So those are the 3 we're going to be exiting. I think that opens us up for some potential new trades coming this week. We'll see. I'm not really seeing much in the way of the watch list that excites me, so I don't want to just take a trade just to take a trade and fill a position. So we'll see if anything comes up. But the other trades that we had, to be honest, Friday was a rough day. We only had 2 positions up, and they were up very minimally. Apple was up. Okay, so we're actually going to take our stop in Apple and slide it up to this 97.90 level. All right, so that essentially takes this 94.29, makes it an old trailing stop. So we're going to make that gray, and the new current stop is going to be this 97.90. And you can see what happened. Apple came down, it hit this 50-day moving average and trend line. That provided enough support for the new bounce higher. So therefore, we're going to take our stop and slide it from 94.29 to 97.90 on this break higher. Now if we turn around and break down through 97.90, that essentially establishes a lower high and a lower low, which would be plenty enough reason to exit the trade. ADM down 1%. This one is still just doing its thing. Our stop right now is 48.16. The new stop level that I am looking at, oops, wrong button, is going to be these 2 closing lows right here at 49. So we would say 49. The only thing we were waiting on is for ADM to move above that 40. I'm sorry, not ADM. The 50-day moving average to move above 49. All right, so that'll give us another reference for our stop. AMT down 1.86%. Again, a lot of our stocks kind of got hit hard this week, so it's a little bit concerning. If you read the post from this morning or last night, that was one thing that I was concerned about. The market was only down about 1% for the week. Our portfolio, on the other hand, was down about 3 or 4%. So that was one thing that kind of concerned me. So I want to make sure that we're, obviously honoring our stops and we're taking the trades when we see them, and not really giving too much back. That's the thing. Like I said, is the one thing you got to make sure that your losses are very small compared to your winners, and that proves for a successful strategy. Like I said, the fact that a lot of our stocks got hit hard this week, I think threw us for a little bit of a loop. But you know what? It is what it is, and we're still making money, so we're gonna move on from there. We can't think about it too much. But AMT, again, this was another one that basically sold off all week from the $100 level down to 96. Now, I did talk about this consolidating in this area, and I think now bounce, we hit the 50-day moving average, which we haven't hit for the past, about 4 or 5 months. So we finally hit that 50-day moving average. Now let's see what happens here. Let's see if we break down through it, or if now it provides a nice bounce point for that eventual break over 100, which we've been talking about. So let's see. I think this is a good point. I think people that have missed this trade now coming back, is hitting the 50-day moving average, are saying, hey, you know what? Let me step in and buy here. So, but we're only going to see that reflected if we get a nice big green bar and eventually a move higher than let's say 97, 98, and then again over 100. That would be a great looking trade, and then that would allow us to move our new stop to this 95, 96 level. APD we went over. Disney down 0.33%. Again, that's really not much going on there. It's just consolidating. 50-day moving average is continuing to move up. Our stop right now in Disney is 87.30, which was the breakout area. So we're consolidating again. Let's see what happens. I think this definitely tests 100. But again, that's a prediction, not anything based on price action. Expedia moving sideways. All right, our stop now is 82.55. The new stop that I'm looking at is 85.68. Again, we're waiting on the 50-day moving average to move higher. But look at what Expedia has done. It was essentially at resistance. Okay, here's the channel. It was at resistance. Hit the top of that channel. Now it's consolidated for the past 2-3 weeks. And now all of a sudden we're back at support. All right, so we're coming into channel support. I think that's a good setup for an eventual breakout over 89 and then a move towards the $100 level. Fidelity, again, another one. We had a nice breakout, and then sure enough this week we broke down and closed down 4 out of 5 days this week. All right, so it's another concern that I have. I think right now 56.40 is a good stop. That puts us below the 50-day and eventually below the trend line. So let's see how we react, if we can get the bounce higher in Fidelity. All right, so General Dynamics. That one just continues to work for us. It pulled back a little bit, but nothing out of the ordinary there. The next stop level I see is this 122.62, and you can see what's happening now with the 50-day moving average. We're starting to curl up and hopefully provide support for this move. If you look on the weekly chart, it's a great looking setup. Nothing wrong with the setup, nothing wrong with where we're at. Just got to give it some time, let it do its thing. H&R Block down 0.03%. This one is desperately holding on to this 32 level. If we break that 32 level, we're going to exit that trade. You can see now we've broken the weekly trend line, okay, based on time. And eventually, if we break that 32 level, we're also going to be putting in a lower low. Again, no reason to stay around in that trade if it breaks 32. LUV, Southwest Air. This one's just been on a tear. All right, we entered here at 29.70. It's now up to 33.87. Not too many places that we can trail stops to, so we ended up using the highs of this consolidation. Okay, so these highs back in here from the end of August. So right now we're below the 50-day, and we're also we're above the longer term trend, but I do think that we're going to end up putting in a more accelerated trend line somewhere once we can get a pullback. But if you look at the weekly chart, we're well above channel support. So let's see. I think this one, if we can get another few weeks that it stays up in this area, we can trail our stop up to this 31.71, which would be the support of this small consolidation. In the last position, RSG down 0.08%, consolidating, moving sideways, really just waiting for that 50-day and the trend line to catch up. I think this provides a nice bounce point and eventual breakout over this 39.60 level. All right, so let's look at our watch list real quick. We added a few positions, took some off from last week, and kept some. So it's a little bit of a combination of everything here. Actually, remove all these drawings. All right, so this one, not American Air, Alcoa. All right, if you guys have been following me, you know that I am personally along this, and I have been for a while. This is a great looking trend. You can see the trend line coming through right in here, and now something similar what I think is going to happen with LUV. A more accelerated trend line has been established, and now we are actually in a larger consolidation. Okay, so here's that consolidation, and you can see by the yellow arrow that's my current stop. So this one I would be waiting on a breakout over 17.30, and then you could set your stop down here at 16. ABT was one from last week. That one's still in consolidation. Still waiting for that breakout over 43.10. APC, the energy stocks got hit hard this week, and that was one of the reasons we're exiting Tesoro. Even a couple positions that were, or stocks that were on the watch list, were removed just because they broke support. APC was one that did hold support, but again, we're down here at support of the box, so that could very well change in the next couple days. This one we were waiting on a break over 112. BK, Bank of New York Mellon. This one looks good, all right. This one on the weekly chart, you can see this nice trend line higher that's been established. And now we're moving sideways. Now potentially looking for a break over $40 for that trade. CenturyLink. Again, nice weekly trend line has been established. Okay, we're pulling back into that trend line. If you look again on the on the daily chart, there's this consolidation right through here. So for CenturyLink, I'd be looking for a break over, say 41.75, 41.70, and then you'd be setting your stop down here at 38.73. DPS, again, similar setup. If you look on the weekly chart, nice weekly trending higher. This one broke out for us last week, or actually 2 weeks ago. We had it on the watch list. It did break out. We did not take the position. Now it looks to be setting up potentially again. So let's see if we can get a breakout in DPS over, say, 63.50, and then we would most likely be setting our stop here at 60.44. So again, if this is your first time watching, you could see I'm establishing exact points. Typically, I will go through. I'm just a little pressed for time today, but typically I will go through and actually show the breakout and breakdown areas, so you can see on the chart 63.50, 61.76. All right, Estee Lauder. Really, just this is one that's been in our watch list for the past I don't even know 3-4 weeks, and we're waiting on a breakout over 76.95 and a breakdown below 73.11 would exit that trade. EMC we added last week. This one is one that I do like. This is kind of my bread and butter setup here. I like when a stock has moved higher, and instead of pulling back, it moves sideways to meet the trend line and the 50-day moving average, which then provides support for an eventual breakout over the $30 level. So I like this setup. I think if we can get a break over 30, that we'll be able to set a nice tight stop here at, say, 28.75 and take that trade. FedEx, another one that I've been long personally for a few weeks, actually a few months, I guess. Let's remove all these drawings. All right, so FedEx, you can see on the weekly chart, nice trend higher. We came in, we're testing, and now it looks like we're moving well off of that trend line with these last few weeks. So then again, if you take and look at now the daily chart, because you want to enter, the trend is higher, you want to get long this stock. So then you look at the daily chart to figure out exactly what points you want to get long. So there's your trend line. Here's your consolidation. And here are your breakout. So here's resistance of the box, 154. And here would be your initial support at 145. Or we would be able to potentially set a stop here at 147, which, because I am long the stock, is now my current stop level. 147.77. You can notice that by the yellow arrow. HD, we've been had on the list for the past few weeks after its breakout after earnings. This isn't really setting up a trade yet. The only reason it's on the list is because if you look at the weekly chart, how long it's gone sideways in this range, and now it eventually broke out. I think what potentially may happen is a pullback, a consolidation, which is happening now, and then a breakout over 94.30. Okay, so what's happening is as it consolidates, this 50-day moving average is going to continue to trend higher. The 50-day moving average is exactly what it is, the average of the past 50 trading days, and the closing prices. So the longer it stays up here, the average moves higher. and then it provides support for a new breakout. So I think this potentially sets up a good breakout. And I'll be honest, this kind of pattern, it's got a lot of potential to provide some serious gains. Just for how long it's gone sideways, a lot of people are going to be happy if it moves higher. Hess down 1.64. Again, this has been on the list probably since back in here. And sure enough, now it looks like another energy name that's close to breaking down out of this box. So we'll see what happens. But with Hess over 150 is the trigger point. Intel, we added this last week. I like how it's consolidating right below this 35 level. If it broke out over 35, I think we'd be setting our stop somewhere down here around 32.64. JWN, this is a little bit sloppier, but sure enough, if you look at it, it's in a consolidation. It's broken down once, rallied quickly back into the range, and it's tried to break out once, and sure enough been sold into. So right now, this is kind of a little bit of a trickier stock because you got to make sure that the breakouts are actual breakouts and not false. But let's see what happens. If we can get that break over 70.24, then potentially either you could be real tight with your stop and set at 68.73. But look at what's happened. We did break this accelerated trend, but after this gap higher, it's gone sideways and sideways. And look at the longer term trend coming through, and now all of a sudden we're going to be meeting that longer term trend. So I think that could provide a nice bounce for us. LRCX, this is another one that's consolidating similar to Intel right below this resistance. So this one we were kind of waiting on a breakout over 73 to enter that one. MJN, this was one we had on a list a few weeks ago. We saw this breakout. We took it off the list, but it has consolidated since. So I think if you missed that trade and still wanted to enter, you could probably wait for a breakout over 97.72 and then use this 94 level as your stop. 3M, again, we'll take you through the process. We have a nice weekly trend line moving higher, so you know you want to be long the stock. Now is a matter of figuring out where. Again, you can see that it did break down at one point, but is now back within the range and moving sideways. So we're between 145 and 142. I think if you can get that breakout over 146, let's say, you could probably set your stop a little bit wider and use this low at 139 as your exit point for that one. Morgan Stanley, again, this one is moved higher. Trend is moving higher, all right, and then what happened was it broke the trend by time, consolidated, and now is breaking out again. So we've talked about it many times in the past. When you get a weekly breakout, you sometimes, or most of the time, will get a consolidation on the daily, which is I think what's happening here. Again, this isn't setting up a trade just yet, but I think if this can move sideways, allow that 50-day moving average to move up, and potentially have this trend line meet all in the same area, then I think you're setting up a nice bounce play for a move over that 35 level. RHI, again, weekly chart, trend is higher. On the daily chart, you have this trend line moving through here, which is accelerated above the 50-day moving average, and you also have a consolidation area. So right now on the daily chart, I would be waiting for a break over 51.30 and a close below 48.50. TEL, TAE Connectivity, is a new one on the list. This one basically same idea. All right, trend on the weekly moving higher. We're right down in the weekly support area. I think again, if you look at the pattern here, you could say that 60.88 is a good area that you would want to be stopped out, and you'd be waiting for that breakout, say over 64.09. Let's add that rectangle in there. Now I'm hoping these drawings stay, because for some reason the last few times I've done the strategy sessions, for some reason it's not saving everything in the software. So let's hope that changes today. WDC, again, one on the list. You can see on the weekly chart. Trend is higher, right? From bottom left to top right chart, this yellow trend line is moving in a upward direction. All right, so then you want to establish a point on the daily chart that you want to get long. Now, we've tried to get long this a couple times, and both times it looks like it's failed us. So right now I'd be waiting for that breakout over 103, and I would probably still use this 97 area as your stop. But again, nice looking trade. This goes back to that bread and butter setup I talked about, where stock moves higher, comes over, moves sideways into that support area, and eventually breaks out. Win, same thing, right? Trend line is higher. It had this move here where it was sold right into, and instead of continuing to move down, it moved sideways. So right now in Win, we're waiting for that breakout over 1166, and then our stop would probably be right here around $11. But you could see on this one of the reasons that I think it's still moving sideways is it's well above the 50-day moving average. And you can see even our trend line is above the 50-day moving average. So I think the longer this one moves sideways, eventually starts to move towards the top of this consolidation around 1150, that trend line, that 50-day moving average will trend up, and I think we'll be good to go on that one. And the last one, WMB, another energy name, another one that was sold into this week. Again, had a big gap higher and is moving sideways to meet the trend line and the 50-day. So this one I would have liked to see break out last week. Sure enough, now we're at the bottom of the middle of the consolidation. So let's see if this one can bounce off this trend line and then eventually break out over 58. Then I think we can use this 56 area as your stop. So basically that establishes our plan for the week. We have some trigger points, we have some exact entry and exit points, and let's see how everything plays out. We'll let the market dictate to us what trades we take. We're not going to try and put our spin on anything, and we'll go from there. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the weekend. For all the new guys, again, I hope you enjoyed the content here, and I hope it helps your trading immensely. It has mine. Just by doing the videos, for me, it makes me definitely stick to a plan, and at least now there's a schedule and there's a procedure that goes into putting every trade on. I had it before, but nowhere near as disciplined as it is just by doing the videos. So I hope that translates, and I hope that helps you guys out. Again, I hope that helps you immensely. So if you haven't already and you're new, please follow me, StockTwits, Twitter, Google+, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to the nightly recap on the website, theturtlefollower.com, and then I will send you emails one a night with all the video links from the day and any important information, so you're sure to not miss anything. With that said, have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Take care, guys.